Season 3 of Master Duel is here, and there's really no changes in the actual structure of the ban list, but I want to talk about some decks that are kind of moving around a little bit on the list. Don't be like the 33.8% of you guys have not smashed the crap out of that script, and smash it so we can get to 102,000. We're actually about 120 away, I believe, at this point. So yeah! So our Master Duel tier list for the new Season 3. I'm going to be a little bit more harsher with this one. This is just going to be, once again, my personal takes on the game itself, things I've seen, and what it generally feels like to play against these things. So ABC is easy as 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put ABC, I guess we're going to put it in the lower half of tier 2. Now, my logic behind this is, like, the deck itself is inherently okay. It just, I don't know, man. We'll put it non-meta. Emancipator. Now, Block Dragon is crazy, and I actually think Emancipator has moved up in terms of popularity as of late in this game. And I believe that while this deck does seem like 1.5 for like more of a higher meta tier event, for example here, Emancipator just gets a lot, I would say, crazier insanity, as we are going to say for this video. Alright, now, Ignister, I played against this deck on the ladder, and formerly I put this deck at tier 2, and I was like, you know, like, does this deck really deserve a tier 2 spot in this? And after I've gotten Ignistered, you know, and had to deal with a 6,000 attack, you know, guy, I mean, in Skystrike, you can only put up to a, what, like 5,300 attack Access Code Talker with any chance to clear it off. And then you're just like, oh yeah, by the way, you can't do that. I think for now that this deck is definitely in the hands of a good player in the 1.5 category. Invoked, same thing here. Invoked is a little bit better than the Ignister deck, but the big thing here is, at the end of the day, what Invoked does, it does better than a lot of the rest of the metagame. I'm going to put this in 1.5 for now. This deck is definitely not tier 2. Macabre and Friends is very good. Altergeist. Ulti-Faker is like an okay thing, but it doesn't really solve or progress the game in crazy methods. So I want to put this here just to kind of see where things go. Burning Abyss, I think, earns its tier 2 slot still, because you can play this in combination with Phantom Knights and do things. It still can be a sub-engine and do things. The pure variant of it, though, is a lot better than 95% of the rest of the metagame, I feel like. So this maintains its tier 2 spot here. Blue Eyes. This is not meta. I know a lot of players out here want Blue Eyes Dark Magician representation. They want to see, you know, these decks do well, but this deck doesn't do enough progressively, in my opinion, to warrant anything too crazy, I would say right now. Cyber Dragons, I would put Cyber in between 2 and 3 here, probably. There's nothing really. Okay, so you can break a board with a Cyber Dragon, easy as crap. All right, if your opponent's got something big up, contact out, okay, mission accomplished. But the problem is, what this deck does to want to promote the rest of itself doesn't feel good at all. And most of the Cyber Dragon players I've played, I don't know, the deck just, it's deserving of tier 3, at least I guess for this part, but okay. Dark Magician. Is it better than Blue Eyes? Yes and no. Honestly, at this point, it just continues to be in the non-meta category. It doesn't, until we get new support to push this deck a little bit higher, I don't think it's doing its job. So, DDDs. This deck in the hands of a good player, I said this in the last video, this deck is insane. It does some crazy combos, ladies and gentlemen. But my problem with this at the end of the day is it doesn't do anything too crazy. It just, yeah, well, I mean, it does stuff crazy. 6,000 attack, synchro monsters are a very scary thing. But yeah, it takes a good player to play this. We're still going to put this in 1.5 because this deck is very much player dependent. Yes. So, Dragon Link is, once again, this deck is also very dependent on player skill. But, with that being said, you can curve out some of the finer weaknesses of this deck, and you can still crush opponents with this. Dragon Link is an absolutely amazing dominating force here, ladies and gentlemen. This is the good stuff. Dragon Maids. Okay, so this one, Dragon Maids are inherently worse than Invoked, worse than Dragon Link. Is it better than Adagnister? I would say it's in about the same range of Adagnister. This deck is a very, very good control deck. It does some crazy powerful things. And, you know, just if you don't get the chance to really know your matchups with this deck will grind you out really, really hard. Drytron, this deck has absolutely no business not being one of the best decks in the game. So many people complain about this deck. Like, this deck is the driving force of insanity for this game. Alright, well, I mean, if they go second, they just die. Well, I mean, when they go first and you don't have any, like, good interruptions, you die. Alright, it's that simple. Eldritch also... So, here's the thing. In terms of metagame representation for events... Eldritch would be here, but in terms of grinding on the ladder, Eldritch feels better. Now, if you're playing in a... This is interesting, because this deck inherently, when grinding on the ladder, would be tier 1. But if it's in terms of metagame for events, you'd actually push this down into 1.5. But in terms of climbing the ladder, we're still going to leave this at 1, because skill drain is a very, very, very... very scary thing for people. I know a lot of people don't like seeing skill drain, and it's really unfair, but that's just kind of where we are right now with this. Infernal Knights and / Hand Loop. I think this deck is fine in tier 2. It doesn't do anything too out of the ordinary, but it earns its place here. Same thing with Yield Infernoid. Tributing your opponent's stuff, taking apart your opponent's boards. It does pretty well. Cosmo? I almost think Cosmo deserves like a non-meta place at this point in time. It doesn't do anything. I mean, like, Dark Destroyer and friends are like really inconvenient pieces here. But at the end of the day, still tier 3? Grand Manju, definitely tier 2, 100%. Do not underestimate what this stupid thing can do to you. You want to get OTK'd out of left field? Yeah, he'll do it. Mekk-Knight also tier 2 for sure. My reasoning for this is if you combine this with, say, something like Orchest, for example, and with like another sub-engine, this deck gets a lot better. But unless your name's Shannon Long and you can perform miracles with this deck, we got to tier 2 this. Necros is like tier 3, right? Like, it's better than these two decks for sure, but it's like not that good. Still, I leave the question mark there. Oh, hey, look, it's the other complementary engine for Yield Mekk-Knight. For sure, these two go hand in hand. I think they really are like the family of justice for this. Phantom Knights. Well, here's the thing. Rongo Reminiad Turbo is crazy. Like, it in and itself with Phantom Knights, I think that this deck has gotten a lot better on the ladder, just for what it wants to do. Man, Phantom Knights, you know what, we're going to put it here still. Like, the deck did get a little bit better, but it just maintains its job here. Praying Kids, now this is interesting. Praying Kids as a whole, the deck hasn't changed, all right? The pure variant is still okay, but when you play it in combination with the Emancipator deck. These two actually go hand in hand. All right, there are variants out here that will play Roxy's. All right, and then when you play Roxy's in this deck, guess what? You got Rock Extra Synergy. So I'm actually going to put this in tier 1 next to this. You can argue that the pure variant is 1.5, but like I said, these two do combo up here. Water. Well, Totally Awesome is at 1. So, I mean, we drop this in tier 2, right? Like, that's fundamentally how this works. Good stuff. Spiral. I'm going to put Spiral in tier 2. Now, formerly I had this at tier 1.5. Now, this deck has kind of lost a lot of the push that it had. And I did say in the last video that we made that we had this deck at the point that it was because the level of skill that this deck takes, much like DDD, you can make a huge board on this and you can, you know, end games with your opponent. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot less players now that are playing this, so I'm going to push this down here just because, like, there's no point in dedicating ultra rares to this when you can just do better things. Thunder Dragons, we're going to tier 2 this. The engine's still pretty good. Nothing really too crazy to say. Trap Tricks is also going to get tier 2'd. I've seen a lot of Trap Tricks players in this game. Like, this deck is very highly represented in terms of craziness. Try tier 1 for sure. There should be no doubt in anybody's mind as to why this deck is a tier 1 competitor at the moment in this game. It is the nuts. Evil Twins. Look, it's another tier 2 deck, ladies and gentlemen. Like, it still does its job. Like, nothing really changes in that regard. All right. VW. So VW is actually interesting right now because this is another, like, contender for Rongo Reminiad Turbo here. All right. This deck angers players. This is not a fun deck to play against at all, especially when you can Rongo Reminiad end game. So yes, I'm going to put this still in the tier 1 category because it is still absolutely an amazing deck. Blackwings, we're going to tier 3 this. I don't think this deck has any real presence or need to be any higher. Cyverse engine decks as a whole are going to go right here. I don't see, once again, this doesn't do anything to really promote any sort of gameplay. Dinosaurs, we're going to tier 2 as well. I think this deck is a really good metagame offsetter. This just ends games in and itself. All right, like Conductor and Friends is absolutely amazing, ladies and gentlemen. It is good stuff, all right? There's really no reason not to. Lightsworn, tier 3. As much as I want to, like, be more optimistic for this deck, it doesn't do anything different than it did in the previous seasons. Does that make sense? Frightfurs, they have True King of all Calamities. They can do the things that other decks do, having a boss monster. I'm going to put them in tier 2, strictly because True King of all Calamities is an amazing card. Alright, we also have Lunalights. Now, Lunalights, I guess, deserves to be in tier 2 because they do get access to some of their more explosive combo pieces that they can really mess around with. I know we're bulking down on the tier 2 category here really, really hard. Modolche. So, this deck definitely deserves tier 2. Strictly on the premise of this deck breaks boards and does not care. This deck is definitely better than Spiral, but not good enough to go into this. This is the metagame breaker, as I'm going to call it. This deck does some really strange things. A lot more than I think players will want to see. Monarchs, this is tier 3. Alright? Nothing's changed in that regard. Alright? Pendulum Ftk. So, this deck has kind of fallen off. I'm going to still put it back here in 1.5, even though nothing has really changed with it. It is still the same as it has been, alright? Trains, this deck is also still not really changed. Trains as a whole, I'm still going to put in tier 3. It's just not good enough to really deviate or do anything else. Here's Rongo Reminiad, tier 1, baby, for sure. This engine is stupid good. Holy moly. Salad. I'm going to put Salad in tier 2. Nothing's really changed with this as a whole. That deck still pretty much maintains its dominance. Shaddolls. Is this still... Does this go here now? So, the Brothers of Destruction, or the Family of Destruction Part 2, ladies and gentlemen. Wind is a really frickin' good card. Alright, let's just be honest about that. Alright, let's see here. Sky Striker. So, Sky Striker, I think, is ahead of its time in some regards. But I'm going to put it back here in 1.5 for this video. From the former Powerhouse down to 1.5 is fine. It's definitely in the top range of this, if that makes sense. Alright, Subterror. So, Guru Pass. Tier 2, I don't see, like, okay, I haven't played against any Subterror in the game. Maybe we'll put it here. It doesn't do anything different than in the past. True Draco is definitely Tier 2, for sure. This deck, you can do some crazy things with, ladies and gentlemen. Like, this deck is very, very, very powerful. Heroes. We're going to put it in Tier 2 as well. This deck is a lot better than everything else in this category, and I think that's fine, honestly. Alright, Red Eyes, absolutely in the non-meta category. Alright, Bird Lyricalisk. I'm going to put this next to the Tri-Brigade deck, because this is an engine that sees play in this. Even though the engine itself isn't crazy good, they still do go hand in hand. Alright, and then next up here, we have Zombies. Zombies haven't done anything, but I guess it is a little bit better than a majority of the rest of the metagame. And then Pure Zodiac. I think we're going to put this in the Tier 2 category, or the 1.5 category, because Zoo is still good. Alright, Drytron Breakboards is amazing, but this right now is just, once again, it's a lot better than some of these other decks here. So this is our ladder tier list, I would say, for this month. Now take this with how you will. It's my opinion. So guys, please feel free to leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. I will see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.